In this video, I'd like to share a bit about my experience with a panic attack a couple of years ago. I found myself in a stressful situation where I found that the conflict that I was navigating with other people in my life was just making my body more and more anxious. And I wasn't able to identify that I was actually suffering from panic until much later, and I had a full-blown attack. But there was a number of times previous to this where I had these unexplained chest pains, just stress throughout my body. I seem to just stress very easily in times of conflict, or even when watching movies, for example, and there's a conflict scene, or just hearing people around me, perhaps families or husbands and wives, boyfriend, girlfriend, neighbors. I just found that, wow, I cannot handle being around conflict at this time. And just that sensory overload came on very quick comparatively to other times in my life. And so what happened was I went to a couple of meetings with different sides of an issue, trying to find out what was happening and trying to discern and trying to be a support to those and be a navigator between the two sides, basically. And what happened is I went to one afternoon to basically be a witness to help support one of the persons. And what happened was I just felt very uncomfortable, and I just felt there was a sense of defensiveness in the room, but also just a lot of stress within myself. And I noticed that my heart rate was higher. I've also noticed too, like one of the signature symptoms was dizziness was coming on. I felt like with my increased heart rate and of course butterflies in the stomach, but that dizziness was definitely part of it as well. And that's where I remember feeling like the thing I wanted to do most was just to leave that room oftentimes. But I kind of just stuck my butt to the chair and said, I think I just need to go through with this, and I don't want to cause a scene as well. But I felt just completely like buzzed and stressed. And then what happened was a number of conversations later, I just found myself saddened, frustrated, even angry at some of the things I was learning in this context. But what happened was I was going to call a leader that I could reach out to and explain the situation that was supposedly impartial and could be a voice of reason, but also a listening ear. But I was supposed to have this call with this individual, and it was kind of the first time I felt like, wow, I'm taking this to a next level. I felt a call I had just prior to that, listening to one person from one side just give a very heartfelt, passionate description of the way he saw things, and I just felt so stressed having to bring this up with this leader. So what happened was my body, I was standing at the top of the stairs, and suddenly I just felt very dizzy. I was about to make my way down the stairs and have this conversation in my office on Zoom or one of the platforms. But what happened was I felt dizzy, and so I kind of just said, I don't think I want to go down the stairs right now. I'm feeling this dizziness, and my heart rate was certainly increasing. I felt very anxious. I felt the stress of many weeks of trying to press through this, and it just kind of culminated in that moment where I was going to take it to the next step. So what happened was I just told my two kids, they were young teens at the time, that I just needed to lie down on the couch, that I wasn't feeling well, that I was actually like had some sort of hint this might be a panic attack, and I think I actually did say that. And my heart rate started increasing more. My breathing was very shallow. I was definitely to the point where I was getting concerned, because I was like, I don't think my body has ever done this before. And it's just that stress reaction that I didn't know my body could do, where it just went out of control and My heart rate went up so high. I got concerned and I phoned 911. And in the midst of the call, I was getting frustrated with the person I was talking to because I was trying to calm myself and breathe, but they kept asking me questions. And eventually I got so stressed that I just had to pass over the phone to my daughter, and she was able to complete my phone number and the address. And I was in a lot of pain and anguish emotionally at that point, and even physically, with my head pounding so bad, my heart feeling like it was going to jump out of my chest. The EMTs later said that I had the highest heart rate I can have. When they came later, and that wasn't even the epitome of it. I was actually coming down off the high already. But the fire department arrived first, and I was just glad when they showed up, because I was like, okay, my kids don't have to be here to see their dad suffer like this, but also they don't know what's going on and what to do. Even the firefighters were kind of perplexed at what to do. But eventually the EMT came, and she understood what was happening right away and talked me down off this insane adrenaline high where my heart's just beating. And then eventually my head just felt like I was going to faint. I kept telling them I don't think I can get up because there's such pressure in my head right now. I feel like I'm going to faint. And the police eventually arrived too, because the dispatch 911 person said that due to your anguished voices and cries you're making in the background and groans and stuff, and just the sense of contortions I was going through with my body, they sent the police as a precaution. And so when the police arrived, I couldn't even gather up the energy, and I felt panic coming on again if I would have to explain what was happening. And so I asked my wife if she would be able to explain, because she was in the know. The EMTs asked me, do you want to go to the hospital, just to be precaution? And I said, yes, please. And so they took me in the ambulance. It was a short wait at the hospital, but I just found that once the EMTs were done and did their job, they took me off the stretcher, put me in a hospital bed in the ER. But as soon as they left, I felt this total sense of panic coming on, that if I didn't have somebody beside me, they could just be present, even just talk about anything but the incident. I felt like if I had to talk about it at any point at that time, it was going to send me into another panic attack. And after experiencing the severity of that one, I was like, no desire to ever experience that again. Even though I felt it coming on numerous times, and it was kind of like tremors after an earthquake, where I just felt like, wow, it's I'm so on the edge right now. Anything can tip me over. And so that was an extreme, challenging time. One of the hardest and most brutal things I've ever gone through in my life. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. Just the symptoms again of complete dizziness, of complete throbbing in your heart, your head. Just my eyes look really strange. I actually took a video of myself, and I was like, what is happening? There is some weird stuff going on here with my body in that state of panic. And once I started to discover what panic was, I realized, man, I think I've had panic attacks in the past, either on flights or during sports and high activity. Just that panic rises, and your gut feels like it's got butterflies, your chest is pounding, you just don't feel good, you feel ill, I feel nausea, like you're going to throw up or faint. And so it took me a long time to even want to go out of the house. I was homebound for many months. I didn't want my wife to leave me. I felt so anxious about everything. I couldn't do things on my own. I was really suffering for those several weeks. And like I said, the tremors were always there. It would take, some scene of a movie even just to trigger me, especially the movie Top Gun. I was watching when they were bringing in the one plane, and the guy had a panic attack on the plane. That just almost threw me over the edge. I just turned it off, and I'm like, I can't watch this. I can't watch most movies with a lot of action in them. And so, yeah, there was just a sense where I needed help. Thankfully, I had a friend who referred me to a a therapist in North Vancouver who specializes in panic. And she was able to start coaching me, starting to work through a workbook that was very helpful, actually. Even though I went against everything I wanted to do, I just wanted to have calm and have peace without medication, but without changing much either or facing the fears. And so what she had me do was actually bring on the symptoms, which was really crazy to think about. So she would have me, for example, sit in my office chair, which is a swivel, and she would get me to spin as much as I could to reproduce the feelings of dizziness. And of course, that would bring on the feelings of panic, because that was my most prominent symptom when I started to feel anxiety and panic. And so it eventually got me used to spinning. Even breathing through a straw was a part of helping me learn how to be okay with short breath. There was other exercises I did as well to bring on those symptoms, to get me comfortable with them, to be okay with them. And those eventually helped me to overcome my fear of dizziness, overcome my fears of triggering another attack. And so, yeah, I mean, medical people did tell me that there should be no implications of a panic attack. They're not harmful. But I really did find that there was just a whole new level of fatigue and dysfunction, especially executive functioning in terms of making decisions, learning and keeping schedule and timing, high executive functioning in terms of reasoning, filling out forms, just thinking and problem solving, and being able to kind of listen to something in terms of steps and then being able to do them and carry them out. I've found that my capacity for those things was just so reduced after. And like I said, my cognitive, my energy all went down. So, I mean, yeah, granted, maybe there's no physical damage they can quantify, but I just felt like there was a severe blow to an already low energy level and dysfunction mentally as well. And with that came a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, because here I am now even more reduced, feeling like a vegetable a lot of times, where I just feel like my capacity is so much lower. And so I share these things with you to maybe for you who are struggling with weird symptoms you've never had before and not understanding that it could be a panic. In fact, one time I went on a flight from Chicago to Vancouver and I felt very unwell on the flight. I just felt kind of like just the air was dry. I felt anxious. I felt like I just wanted to get off the plane so bad, like never before. And I had a very fidgety, restless person beside me, and it just made me even more like that. And but a couple of days later, I was at a hockey practice helping my son as a coach, one of the junior coaches. And yeah, I had these pains in my chest, and so I had to go get checked out at the hospital here. I had to go to a heart specialist. They said, you're totally baffled us because you're totally coming out clean, did all these tests, hooking me up to all sorts of wires and stuff like that. But yeah, there was nothing wrong they could see. But it wasn't until later when I realized it was probably a panic attack even then, and that panic can take these weird forms. So just to inform you who maybe are starting to experience some of these symptoms when you're under a lot of stress, but also that there is hope as well, that after going through this therapy, I've been able to live a relatively back to normal functioning. Like I said, it's reduced, but I can go out on my own now, for example. I can not have that anxiety and that fear of always having to have my wife with me, or protection, having people I can trust. I've been able to kind of bridge that chasm between the two groups as well, and starting to build relationship and not just avoiding because of that past challenge as well. By no means am I perfect there, and not everything is restored completely, but I am trusting God for that as well, and seeking forgiveness and restoration of relationship as far as I'm able to. But, yeah, I feel for anyone out there who's ever had a panic attack, who's had that scary experience of your heart rate going out of control, your brain feeling like it's going to explode, just that feeling of nauseousness and sickness in your gut, and just like impending death is coming over you. That's really what it felt like. It felt like it's like a demon of hell just pounced on me and just throbbed, like just bludgeoned me into this panic state. And of course, all the added complexities and questions of should I call EMT or the ambulance or police or firemen. And it's just embarrassing to think that, wow, like, okay, I can let this privately happen if I can just cope with this. But as soon as I make that call, I realize, okay, people are going to be wondering what's happening, neighbors. And it was just another level of vulnerability that I had to come and explain to my neighbors what happened, to see the fire trucks, the ambulance, the police. And I didn't have to go into detail, I didn't feel, but it was just a sense of, coming clean basically on what was happening, but being honest, helping others realize that, we're all stressed. There's always these things pressing in on us. And one thing I really remember too was when I was in a state of panic, one of my first instincts was to let people close to me know what was going on. So I messaged them via like WhatsApp or texting. And in hindsight, I wish I would have just texted a few people and that's it. But I tried to keep texting them even in the ambulance. But I found that every time I tried to explain the situation just even a little bit, it would bring on the panic again. And at one point, I finally told the EMT, can you just keep my phone from me so I don't obsess about messaging people right now? I don't want to think about this because it's triggering more panic. And so she held onto the phone for me until I asked for it again, simply to listen to music. And I had noise canceling earphones I could just put over my ears to deal with the noise in the hospital. And so these are some of the tips, not the most not one of the videos I would prefer to have to share on YouTube, to be quite honest. It brings a sense of embarrassment to me, but also just having to live through it again as I'm just even explaining it to you. Although my ability to talk about it now and be calm is a testament to God's work and his spirit and his grace, and a testament to our healthcare and how it can actually help us in so many ways if we just are able to work through it and trust God, and just being able to see that we can make it through even these really tough times. So, but the reason I did it is because I think there's people out there, you, who are struggling with these symptoms and don't understand what panic is, or you've been through it and you just need to know that somebody else has been through it as well, and that there's hope. Even though I still struggle with anxiety a lot, going out socially, being in busy places, sometimes just going out at all, that sense of panic is always triggered. And so being very careful how much exposure I have myself to going out is really key. But those are the things that God has been ministering to me. One of the best passages recently is just the Calming of the Sea passage by R.C. Sproul. I put it in one of the playlists, Jesus Calms the Sea. But just the fact that he brings this mega storm to a complete standstill, where the waves and the wind are completely calm. And it went from a mega, in the Greek, mega storm to a mega calm. And how the disciples were just like asking themselves, who is this? Like, it's like an alien kind of power that no other human has. Pointing to the fact that he was no mere human, that he was in fact the God-man, fully God, fully man. And he was able to calm the storm because he's the creator. of all things. And so there's just that sense where I have rested in the fact that Jesus can calm a sea. He can calm the internal part of my being as he grows my faith in him and trust in him, that he will care for me. And I'm so grateful for, my workplace, for the medical community that has given me oversight, both doctors and psychologists, both the BC Complex Chronic Disease, and many who have invested in my life and tried to help me understand what's going on. My doctor, also my family and friends, especially those who journey with me daily or weekly. And just thankful to God for bringing me through these tough times, so that I can be more sympathetic towards others who also struggle with panic, who struggle with low energy, who struggle with anxiety every day, and that it limits their social capacity, their group attendance, all these different things. So I share that with you, hoping that you can see how Jesus can work even in our mega storms in our lives, and our mega worry and mega anxiety, to bring calm, and that actually God is more powerful than the storms in our life.